hands down, probably 90% of the time when we ask our clients about a recent success they had, it is coming out of a failure, coming out of a struggle, coming after the climb, the victory that they had. It is, would you say, I mean, it's such a high percentage that celebration they're having is because it was tough.
Welcome to the Hope and Hairspray podcast. I'm Rhodey Kate.
And I'm Kelly Osborne. Today, we will lead you on a journey of self-development and professional growth. You will be inspired to be the best version of who you were meant to be.
Let's jump in.
Hello. We are here at episode number 7, and it is called You Grow on the Climb, which can be a tough one because we have some good climbing stories, right, to share. So it's all about, on this one, trusting the process.
Yep.
Right. We, of course, everyone wants to live on the top of the mountain, right? But unfortunately, all growth stories, confidence grow while you are climbing. And you gain muscle from climbing. Right. If you just live on the mountaintop, I've heard different sayings about the air is thin up there. You could celebrate real quick, but then down you go. And a lot of people, oh my gosh, I just have to get past this. Well, when you get past this mountain, there's probably going to be another one. So it's really valuable. We've got some great information today to help you appreciate the process, appreciate that growth opportunity. Mm-hmm. So, Rhodey, what is going through your mind today as we are getting ready to talk about sometimes a tough topic?
I think we like to start with mindset. So I think this is the idea of, do you have a fixed mindset or do you have a growth mindset? So fixed is you're going to stay put, you're going to dig your heels and no change, no growth. Where a growth mindset is that you're always growing and you're always learning. I think that's the first step. But then I think, and I've had that for a long time, but this idea of grow on the climb is relatively new to me. I didn't put that together. I didn't have a lot of people who said that to me. And I'm like, yes. So I love that phraseology. What I did know is that from a learning perspective, they did a study, I don't know, it's been about 3 or 4 years that I've seen it. So leaders learn like 34% from hardships. So that's how they learn. So if you don't ever go through hardships, you're never going to learn. So it's kind of weird to say, yay, I hope I get a hardship so I can learn. I mean, that's not what we're saying. But we're saying when you go through hardships, look back because you did learn. Right. So about 34, I think, percent. Then there's challenging assignments. So especially this is like more from a business leader or a corporate perspective. When you give those challenging assignments, about 27% really learn from that. Right. So now that, I actually know you just recently sort of challenged someone at one of your businesses to take and learn on Canva and do those types of things, right? That was something she was very excited about, but I can imagine all she's learned, right? So that was a challenging assignment for her. So you're going to learn from that. And then the other one is you learn from others, right? So this is the idea of like about 22%. So when you're thinking, I've got to train someone or I need someone to learn something in my business or in my department, it's not all this formal training. It's from hardships, it's from other people, and it's from challenging assignments. So there's quite a bit of learning that happens, and not very much formally, meaning not a lot from reading or going to a class or doing an online course. We learn, I guess, from the things around us. And what I love about all of those is as you're doing what you're doing, as you're going up and moving up and learning, you're growing on the climb. Once you get to the top, you're done, right? And so I love that visual for when people are struggling with things, if they can take a step back and go, I'm struggling, it's hard, but I'm growing.
For
right?
sure.
There's value in that. I'm growing, I'm on the climb and all those types of things. So
one thing that, as you're talking, it reminded me, when we go through struggles, sometimes I'm a recovering guilt person. So I think I did something wrong. Oh, I have to learn this lesson because I strayed off the path. I did something wrong. I made a bad choice. And you feel like it's inflicted on you, right? Where you're struggling. And sometimes we do choose the wrong path, but I used to consistently think that every struggle was because I made the wrong choice. When I switched that mindset to realize that the struggle is to give me tools and growth and confidence for the next task.
Yeah.
And that may not have been what I did wrong. That was such a shift for me in my mind. It was such a huge growth chapter for me. To lay down the guilt that everything I did was causing everything else because, as you know, I have a huge faith. And that was a part of my journey, learning to accept that struggles were sometimes a good thing and often a good thing, actually. And I think sometimes we can be in positions as a leader that we don't want somebody else to struggle.
Or a parent. I'm thinking, you don't want your kid learn and make different, I guess, mistakes than I did. I've heard that a lot too. And then I'm like, yeah, but maybe that's a new way they're going to learn. I mean, it's different for everyone, right? It's definitely different for everyone. But I do think that we try to take that struggle away from people. We don't want that.
And think about it. If you can shift your mindset and you are a leader, what that would do to those around you, to give them the opportunity to struggle a little bit. I used to be also a pause filler. Like I'd feel like I need to fill the gap with conversation, and it's okay to sit in a space to let somebody think. Right. And kind of struggle through it on their own, or even a longer space instead of a pause in a conversation, a pause where you circle back. Like, how many meetings are you having with people? How many times are you checking in on them? Well, sometimes they just need to go through that, right? Do you have any stories where you struggled in your career or with a project that you were left alone, or that you were hovered over and helped at every struggle?
I love that word, helped, at every moment. Yeah, I mean, I can think of another. What I feel is almost just that feeling of, for me, it's a balance. So I always say when I go into a new position and a new role and I have a new manager, right, I want to know what like if we're sitting in a meeting, I want to know my boss would say X or my boss would say Y. I want to know that person. So I'm looking for a lot of feedback when I first get into a role, because I'm looking to learn who they are and what they think and where they are. Now, you know me, that others may not, but I'm not the one who said, oh, my boss said that, so I'll say that too. I want to know what my boss says, so when I disagree, I can calmly say, well, now my boss would say this, I say this, and this is why, and I can have those conversations. But in the beginning, I do need that feedback. And in fact, just had a conversation with someone. I'm trying to remember if it was at her sabbatical or was on my own. And she was saying, it was a meeting you and I just had, right? I didn't get any feedback. So I'm getting no feedback, good, bad. And you know me, I love feedback. It's not good. It's not bad. It's just data. It's just information that you can do something with, right? And I think you should ask for feedback. I think you should give feedback. But in that case, what she was saying was she wasn't getting any. So in the beginning, I really want that. Now you asked the other question, right? So do you give space for someone to grow on the climb? And I'm going to say that word that we don't like, failure or mistake, right? Do we allow people to fail or make a mistake? And that can be really, it's going to be an awful culture and an awful feeling. And I had someone who, I'd never heard this before. His analogy was, it's like being a long-tailed cat in a room full of rocking chairs. And being a cat person, I'm like, okay, I see it. That's cool. Like walking around on eggshells. So are you creating an environment at work or at home where someone can make a mistake and they can fail? I mean, I don't mean rock bottom fail. I'm just saying,
Catastrophic.
yeah,
Right.
I mean,
No.
obviously those types of things, but from the perspective of those small things that, they don't matter. I want to say they don't matter, but they do, else we wouldn't have this kind of energy around them. But in the scheme of the world, and you're looking at your lifetime, did the fact that you were late for this project or performance, whatever that you're doing, is it going to make or break you? Well, I guess we're saying you grow on the climb, it'll make you, right? It's not going to break you. It's going to make you. Yes, you're going to have to apologize. Yes, you're going to have to do a lot of those types of things to make it right, to improve that relationship. But yeah, you are. It's going to be something that you learn. So I think we don't allow that for that space. And I just talked to someone else that she's a new leader. So congratulations, she just became a director, and she just told me recently that when she got with this new company, which has been about 1.5 years, I think, her VP sat down with her and basically said that it was okay to make a mistake, that we're all human, right? That we all make mistakes. And I thought that was brilliant, just to tell someone new. And it was not even her boss, it was her boss's boss type thing. And so I know, based on conversation with her, that she's got that same mentality with her team, that she's got a team for the first time that she's going to be leading. And so creating that a safe environment to say mistakes will happen. How you handle them, what you learn from them is important.
So she created short tail cats, right?
Or stationary chairs.
One or the other.
Something like that. Right. Exactly.
Thanks for listening to this episode. We would love to invite you to an experiential in-person event called our Women's Sabbatical Getaways. This year, we're going to Ludington, Michigan, Dallas, Texas, and Seattle, Washington. If you want more information, you can go to our website at hopeandhairspray.com, click on sabbaticals, and fill out the interest form. We would love to see you there. Let's jump back in. Another layer of that, we have a big family. We have grandchildren, and so my generation of raising children was kind of that helicopter parent generation of kind of always being in there, making sure they don't fall or stumble or do bad on an assignment or whatever that can just carry through. And recently I was listening to a podcast, and now I can put that into action with my grandkids, is kind of letting them fall, right? When they're climbing in trees, and that's so contradictory to how, I don't know that I was a helicopter parent, but there's a self-awareness piece. I'll ask my kids, but letting our grandkids, it's okay if they tumble or stumble or letting that happen, because guess what? The second time they have the knowledge now. Oh, I fell when I jumped off that log.
Right.
Right. And we carry that through. If you go through that as a parent, that's where I saw that difference in how I could approach things. And that was all about me, right? Not wanting them to get hurt. Right. But even something as simple, we're not going crazy here.
Right.
It's not jumping off the couch or anything. Well, I'm sure that will happen in the future. But understanding that pain, we don't want that to happen, but it is a big lesson, right? Physical pain, emotional pain.
Yeah.
But making it safe for them. It's all about the environment, right? You talked about at a workplace, it's okay if you fail. What is it? Edison, 600 and some failures on the light bulb. And he learned every way not to do it. I love that mindset. It's how you view failure, right? And what your definition of success is. So another self-awareness piece is, what do you define failure? What is failure? True failure in the grand scheme of things. And also, how do you view success? Because maybe your definitions are off a little bit. And if you really want to know, ask people in your circle. We talk about that reflection, that feedback. What do they see you as seeing failure looking like or success looking like? Because maybe your definition's off a little bit, right? Have you ever had a space where your definition of failure was off or success?
Well, I'm a proponent of everyone has their own definition of success. I'm not a real, I'm high in individualization, right? Clifton Strengths, high in individualization. And so I understand and respect each individual and how they show up. And my sort of personal battle over the years has been, what's your definition of success? And I start from a society perspective, especially for women, right? Is your definition of success, I'm supposed to go out and, bring home the bacon, if you will, or am I supposed to, stay home with the kids? And it's like, yes, whatever you want to do. I mean, what your definition, what works for you and what works for your family. So I think I'm definitely clear on the fact that it can look like that for everyone. I think failures are harder. I mean, that's hard too, but failure is difficult because especially when we're at work, it's someone else's definition, right? But it's not really, because you agree, hopefully you've agreed with your boss, with your company that these are my performance, this is what I'm going to do, and this is what success looks like. I mean, if you're not having those conversations, start right there. Really need to be saying, hey, what does success look like? What does failure look like? Be really, really clear so you're on the same page to begin with. And then the answer is, so failure can look like lots of things. When you change your mindset to say failure is growing. Now, you can't always be growing. At some point, you do need to hit what you're going after, right? So it's the idea of saying, okay, I can fail. It's okay to fail. And I think that gives you the confidence to be braver, to be a little bit more of a risk taker. And you're probably going to actually, I believe, this is unsubstantiated, this is just a personal view, that you probably are more successful because you've kind of gotten rid of those chains that are holding you down.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There was a video I watched, a gentleman that feared rejection. So he put himself out there every day asking just random people, can I have a stick of bubble gum? Like, he was putting himself in situations where he was probably going to get rejected, and it kind of wore off him.
Oh, nice.
Right? Kind of, that wasn't so bad. That lens, how do we view failure? How does it affect us, right? And yes, there is value in learning from other people's mistakes. I was the oldest child, and my brothers said they learned a lot of things that they should not do while they were growing up. So you have a few different ways that you can learn and grow, but when it's on your own personal journey, it's how you view it. And yeah, there's going to be times, I think as a small business owner, there's a lot of times where I feel like a complete failure. And you have to work through that. In fact, I think I had one about a month ago where you're just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that. But what's your lens? What are other people telling you? What are you telling yourself? Yep. I think as women, there's a lot of lies that we tell ourselves, like that we are a failure when maybe a task failed.
Right.
There's a big differentiator between the two. Yeah. Let's call it a spade, right? Did that thing fail, or are you a failure? Those are very different.
They are. One is that really you take it personally, and it's just kind of as a person, I'm a failure, versus I did something that failed, or I didn't do something and that was a failure. So it's tough. I think it's always interesting when it's like, it's business, it's not personal. And it is personal. Actually, we just heard someone last week say, so I take my business very personal. I put, especially as a small business owner, and she owns it. It's not that small, but I put my heart and soul. It's my vision. It's my mission. And years into it, she takes it very personally. And I think we do. And I think that's okay as long as it's in perspective, right? What's my part in it? Maybe to me, that's the best question is, this just happened. What was my part in it? How did I contribute or not contribute maybe into this and get that result? So I think that is an important piece. But when you're looking at failure and you're thinking about the climb, you're just going to go up a little bit and you might fail and you might take a few steps back, right? So keep it in perspective of the entire climb. And then know that, I guess it's another way of saying it's about the journey and not the destination, right? We always say that. And it's true. But that one's a hard one for me to remember, about, being a journey, like celebrate this moment, celebrate what we're doing. Because if we only celebrate the climb or the destination, we're not going to be celebrating very much in our lifetime. And that sounds really sad.
Yeah, to enjoy that journey. I think you caught me even just last week using the word failure. And you were like, excuse me, you just called that a failure. And I was like, oh, I did. I didn't mean to. Do I still think that? And when you have somebody you trust in your life that you can kind of go through that. We had a project that we were working on for years.
Yes.
A lot of money, a lot of time, and it didn't happen. And this was a year and a half ago that we cut ties after 3 years of working on this project. And that did feel like a failure to me, but that did not mean I was a failure. It's taken me, I've done a lot of work on it, but the word failure still slipped out.
It did.
When we were chatting about that last week, right? And I was shocked.
And really what I saw on that venture that you were doing is you learned a lot, and there was a climb, there was a destination. It just didn't look like what you thought it looked like, right? You had a vision, and the thing is, you should have a vision, absolutely have a vision. But sometimes with your vision, as you're climbing, things will come at you and you need to adjust slightly. And in the end, I'm like, look where you are now. I mean, you've got a new business. You've got, one of your sons involved in the business. It's doing well. You're about to, do a next project. And it just isn't what you thought it was going to be.
Very different.
Very different.
And you do need to be open to that. Right. And you need to reflect accurately. When I look back, I'm like, wow, this is where we're at. It doesn't look the same. But be okay with that. Does that mean it's a failure because it looks differently? I can guarantee even this podcast will look differently in episode 20, right? But does that mean it was a failure in the beginning?
Right.
No, sometimes we just need to start. Right. We just need to, but we can't stay in a space, right? When you start, just continue the journey. When COVID came, one of the best podcast information that I had at the beginning was gain some muscle from it, right? Don't sit back inside, get up in the starting blocks, right? Do your workouts, get ready, adjust, change, pivot, right? I think that word needed to be burned at the end of COVID, right? Yeah. But did you gain muscle from it? Yes, COVID grand scale, but we all go through struggles all the time that if we have that mindset of, I'm going to get some muscle from this, right? Because nobody likes to go through something in vain.
Yeah. And, I think, so I'm high in positivity as well. And I know you are as well from a natural strength. I think you'll tell me if you had that reaction. For me, because I'm so high in positivity and I always want to keep that, I really looked at negative things as, well, you never want to experience them. And it's been within the last 5 or so, maybe a little bit longer years, where I listen to music. I think music always, it seems like I always hear the song I need to hear and the lyrics I need to hear. And it's like, how do you know, that it's good if you don't go through the bad? And my positivity wants to go, I can figure that out. I don't need to know. I don't need to experience the bad. But there's a little bit like that, or the scars you get in life, they kind of build who you are. So for someone with positivity, I have to tell you, that is a struggle. But lately I'm like, yeah, I get it. And I'm more the middle of the road. Like, I don't need to experience rock bottom. Or
you don't want to.
I don't want to.
Maybe you just don't want to experience rock bottom.
I don't.
Nobody wants to, right?
And everyone has a different definition of rock bottom, right? But from sort of that way. But if I feel like I experience somewhat not great things or great outcomes, then it's better. But my positivity does struggle with that. It's different to me than we're talking about the climb, because I'm positive, I'm focused on the climb. So that's positive because that's forward movement. And then as I grow, and then I may fall back. But that idea of hitting the bad so you know what good looks like, or you want to be clean, so you be dirty so you know what clean looks like. I'm thinking of a song. And I'm like, interesting. But I get that it's true, but my positivity still sort of rubs me a little bit differently.
Well, it's interesting you should say that, because we both have positivity. And I will say all the time, the good is never as good without the bad.
I know.
And
that's why
and
we're
so
different.
We are different in that, because the appreciation
Yeah.
I can have, because I know what it's like. I know what it's like to be a single mom.
Yeah.
Boy, so I can love not being a single mom.
Right.
Right. That is just, wow, that was hard. So I love that it's not hard anymore, because I know what it's like to be so difficult, and I just that appreciation level for me. So we always here at Hope and Hairspray, we always have action steps. Like, what can you do today, this week? Some of you, it might take a month. Some of you, it might take a year to start the shift in mindset on a climb, the struggle, trusting the process of growth that happens when you're on the climb. So, Ro, what can they do over the next few days or weeks or months?
Well, I'm not a daily journaler. That is just hard for me to, I don't have that level of commitment. I get sidetracked, and then my handwriting is horrible, so I need it to look pretty. My niece and I talk about that a lot about it. Just it's got to look pretty. I'm like, just get a crappy book, girl. Just start with it anyway. But I do believe in journaling, and I believe in spot journaling or project journaling. I think here is if you really sat down with yourself in a quiet place and just admitted to yourself on paper what you have seen in your life, the negatives as failure, right? The things that you failed at on one column. And then on the other column, highlight the things that you learned as a result of it, or that went well, or the new opportunity that was given as a result of this particular failure. I think that's a great way to do that. So you might have to do that a couple of times, and then two things happen. I think you keep it so you can refer back to it if you need to, or me, I like to burn things. If I'm
She's a pyro at heart.
It's really bad. But I think that words are powerful. So you put them on paper because they're powerful. You've thought through them. And when it's time to let go, it's time to tear it up or burn it, or my favorite combo, right? Tear it up and then burn it. But just to, and when you do that, just imagine you letting go of whatever you have associated with that. So that's how I would just have a really good journaling session. And then when you're ready, let it go.
Absolutely. It's so important to take that first step. Rhodey and I are, we do coaching for a living. That's what we do. And hands down, probably 90% of the time when we ask our clients about a recent success they had, it is coming out of a failure, coming out of a struggle, coming after the climb, the victory that they had. It is, would you say, it's such a high percentage that celebration they're having is because it was tough, and just turning that lens. So this week, this month, today, write down those failures, write down the struggles, how you view them. But then make sure you write down what you learned, because you definitely grow on the climb. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.